Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of What If Issei Was a Dog with Sacred Gear and Got Harem? A devilishly naughty discovery. It was a cool summer day, with rain pouring down from above, making most stay inside to avoid the stormy weather. An exception was a lady with bright crimson hair, traveling out to check out where a flash of holy light was seen a few minutes ago. A red and black umbrella kept out the worst of the wet, but nothing could really stop the dreary mood. The contract governing the town may have been breached, and it was her duty to go check it out. She gave a light sigh. High school had just ended a few weeks ago, and she was hoping to spend her last few months of freedom in peace. Although it was definitely better to be in the know and be prepared than not foreseeing what would happen in the future. Approaching the epicenter of the earlier bolt, Rias formed a magic circle in her ear and contacted her queen, Akino. Do you sense any presence of angels or fallen angels, Akino? No, nothing yet. I did sense the presence of some holy magic, but likely only enough for a single lance. If there are any angels around, they are probably long gone. I see. You and Kaneko should keep watch. I am approaching where the lance struck now. Understood. Stay safe, my king. Of course. Rias cancelled her connection through the magic circle and continued her search for the rain. There likely wouldn't be anything left, but it was still better to check either way. To her surprise, she heard a whimpering noise as she approached a playground. She slowly approached the sound, and found a dog with a burnt hole through its side, a gaping maw of burnt flesh where its organs should have been. It was hard to see what type of breed the dog was since the majority of its body was covered in wounds and cuts. Whatever had attacked it was full of malice. Rias was shocked that it was still alive, and even more so when a red glow began to emanate from her hand. An evil piece is reacting? She said as a crystallized red pawn materialized in her palm. I have never heard that the evil pieces could be used on a non-magical animal, but here we go. Not wanting to waste a piece, but knowing that her piece wouldn't react without a possible host, she decided to go for it. She didn't have many pieces used anyway, and just using a single pawn may not be so bad just to see the potential of what this poor creature could do. Taking the piece in her hand, she held it above the dying dog, and willed it to activate. Be born anew in crimson light, and rise to serve me, your new king. The piece formed a magic circle underneath the dog and fell gently towards the prone animal. The piece was readily absorbed into it, disappearing in a crimson glow. Flesh was mended, and a new pulse came from the poor mud on the ground. It opened its dark brown eyes and shook its mangy brown fur in the rain, soaking its new master. Hey, quite that, Rias giggled, glad that she was able to save the poor thing. She felt the call of her rook. What's up, Kaneko? We felt the addition of a new peerage member, who has joined our group. Rias figured that she might as well tell her two peerage members what has happened. I found something interesting. One of my evil pieces reacted to a dog that was shot down by an angel's lance, and I have reason to believe that there is something special about this creature. At the moment, Rias was petting the creature who had recently revived. Its wet fur smelled. It was shakily looking around, but the look in its eyes showed intelligence and kindness. The dog turned to face its new master and sniffed the crimson-haired princess, enjoying the sweet perfume wafting off of her. This was also the same time that the princess realized that the line had gone silent on her end. Is everything okay, Naniko? Even though I respect your decisions as my king, I do hope that you know what you are doing. Rias smiled hopefully. I hope that my gamble pays off as well. I have a feeling that this little one will be the key to good things to come though. She patted the creature and it kneeled its head to her, almost like it was bowing. Understood. Is there any other business for the day? Kaneko asked. No, that is all for today. Do complete your contracts, and I will see you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. She could feel the connection cut off after that, and a sigh left her body, a frown forming on her body. I hope that my hunch and the evil piece were correct, she said to nobody but the dog and the raining sky. Turning to look at her furry friend, she saw that they were now on their haunches, wagging its tail gently behind it, as if looking for an order. Glancing down, she commented, "Oh, you're a boy." Taking another moment to think, I think that I will call you Issei. Is that okay, boy? The dog barked in joy and stepped closer to his mistress. She leaned into him and patted his head again. Ha ha, down boy, now let's go home. I believe that it is time for both of us to have a bath. With that, she waved her hand and a large magic circle expanded beneath them, taking them away to Rias's apartment. Having lowered her umbrella during the ritual, Rias was already soaking wet when she teleported issei and herself. The beast reacted surprised at first, but then calmed down when they realized that there wasn't any danger around them. Rias put her used umbrella off to one side before starting to take off her soaking blouse. Welcome to your new home, boy, I hope that you like it. The dog barked, in appreciation, and wagged his tail on the tile floor. The bathroom was fairly modern, with a large bathtub, sink for washing, a mirror, and a toilet. In all honesty, with just the two of them, it was already a little cramped. That should be fixed in a moment though. With her blouse off, Rias's large boba bounced around, free from one container. The bustic college student sighed as her chest was able to be a bit more free, and they soon entered their full glory when she unned her boba outfit, her J-cup-sized boba hanging tautly on her frame. Thank God for healthy devil physicality. On a human woman those fun bags would have been back-breaking. On Rias, they were a little more than fine. After her bobas were free, the lady thought that the dog was staring very intently at her bobas, but she pushed the thought to the side. There was no way that the dog was in any way attracted to her, or vice versa. The thought of being attracted to someone made her mood sour as she thought about her current future. In the mind of issei, things were a little different. Holy, do you see those bahankas? They're fing huge. Man, I can't believe that I lucked out on meeting two hot girls in one day. Well, one of them killed me, but that doesn't matter now, cause here I am. His little doggy thoughts were all pointed getting laid, cause he knew in his mind that this was definitely where this story was going. Back to the girl, she was taking off her skirt, showing off her creamy white thighs and tight black stockings, which were soon stripped off to reveal a pair of lacy black panties. Issei was drooling at this point, panting hard as he stared. He kept it in his sheath though, since he didn't want to scare the girl. He didn't even ask to mate yet. Her black panties came off next, revealing a light bush of crimson, the same color as the ones on her head. Rias was humming a tune again, leaning into the bathtub to plug it, exposing her currently dry womanhood. She then turned on the hot water and steam began to fill the room as the warm bath filled the tub. As the water level rose, she looked over to her new pet. So how are they supposed to both fit inside the tub? She realized that even though the bath could fit her easily with room to spare, adding a dog would take up too much room, even if both of them stood up. I guess you could go in first. I am also pretty sure that dogs need a special type of shampoo, so I guess it's just a hot bath and a good scrub for now. Mind getting into the tub for me? Issei nodded as he sniffed the water in the tub, checking to see if there was anything wrong with it. He then tried to scoot himself into the water, but couldn't quite make the jump yet, his back paws not being able to properly launch him forward. Haha, the heiress giggled, watching the newest member of her peerage struggle to get into the bath. She lovingly went over and helped push the dog over the edge, glad to be of service. Few people would want to enter her peerage, so even though she had been looking for a while already, she was only able to recruit 2 to her side. 3 now with issei. With affection she petted the dog, enjoying the loving look that the dog gave back to her, a feeling she hadn't felt from anyone outside of her immediate family, and 2 peerage members for a long time. She still didn't know why this dog was shot down by a holy lance, or why her evil piece reacted to him, but she was happy to actually have a new loyal companion. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't notice that issei had gotten closer to her chest, and his hot breath had made one of them stiffen up a bit. That was until she felt his tongue give her teeth a solid lick. Hey, what are you doing there? She pushed issei away a bit. Moving the dog away from her bobas, the dog whined and gave her some puppy eyes, making his master roll her eyes. Oh, come here you big baby, you like my bobas that much? A coy smile crossed her face, the girl's teasing nature coming into play. The dog nuzzled his face against her chest, enjoying their warmth, his fur tickling her skin. This made her giggle before a light sob escaped her lips, the dog once again licking at one of her boba points. Oh come on boy, you don't have to, oh. The crimson head was going to reprimand her newest member till she felt a light nip on one of her boba points, giving her a shock of pain, followed by a light dose of pleasure. This surprised her how quickly she became naughty. Rias had fooled around with Aquino in the past before, and she of course played with her own body, but she never had the chance to play with any toys or any of the boys her age. Being almost a total virgin other than feeling the light caresses of her queen, she didn't understand why this dog, this creature was making her so naughty. Maybe it was due to her lack of experience that was making her feel this way. Unfortunately, her train of thoughts was going to be interrupted once again. Oh, right there. Rias pulled away after another lick at her bulbas covering her mouth as she tried to rationalize why she said that out loud or how she felt. As she was trying to rationalize everything, the water in the tub had risen greatly, with the tub almost being completely full. Knowing that she couldn't just leave it there, she moved back to the tub and shut off the flow of water. Issei was able to still stand up in the water, and didn't show any signs of being afraid. You know, maybe using some regular shampoo may be okay to use since you have been enhanced by the evil piece already. The first time pet owner was trying to figure out how to proceed. Issei barked once, as if to respond, so Rias shrugged and took a bottle of her favorite shampoo. Realizing that there was a lot more fur on Issei than what she could currently reach, the king made an executive decision and decided to do something about it. She needed to take a bath herself anyway. Scoot over, Issei, she commanded. The dog sat down on one side of the tub, letting Rias pull on the drain to let the water flow out of the bathtub. Turning on the shower head, she got into the hot stream of water, enjoying the hot sensation flowing off her body. Her worries melted from her mind as the jets helped to calm her being. She was so calm that she didn't even notice when Issei started to stare at her bum, mesmerized as she twisted and turned underneath the shower head. Sensing an opportunity, Issei scooted forward bit by bit, till his wet nose was almost touching her bum. Positioning himself well, he booped one of her bum cheeks, and then the other one. Since she didn't notice, the dog became a little bit more brave. He dove his nose right between her crack, trying to sniff her bum directly. This got a reaction out of her, as the king turned around to face her pawn. Oh, I am so sorry, Issei, I forgot about you there for a moment. I have been stressed out recently. She took the bottle of shampoo again, ing some onto herself and using it to set up her own hair. Issei watched in amazement as she meticulously ran her hands through every fold and lock, not missing any strand as she completely lathered up her bum-level hair. Finally finished, she turned around and smiled down on her pawn. Your turn now, dear. With the high-grade soap, Issei felt the feeling of being rubbed down for the first time, enjoying the sensation of a girl's hand all over his body. In his thoughts he was thinking, oh man, this feels pretty good. Way better than just head pats. Ah, that's the spot, he thought as she started to rub the underside of his belly. I just wish that she would let me play with her bobas again. That was nice. Still, sometimes rubbing her babe in my side feels amazing. Oh, she's getting closer to my sheath, I wonder. The dog planned out his next move, and executed the best that he could. Taking a few steps forward, the mutt revealed to his master his knot for the first time. Huh, what's this? Rias asked as she felt something much warmer and twitchy touch one side of her hand. Feeling like she should take a look, she peeked underneath her pet and discovered something amazing. Her newest peerage member was hosting a foot-long shaft of doggy meat, with an oversized knot at its base, ready for action. Getting so close made Rias feel strange, like the manhood was calling out to her. She reached a hand towards it, but her hand backed away when it twitched menacingly. The Crimson Princess could not look away though, and her stare was still placed on Issei's massive breaker. Sensing her stare, Issei jiggled his hips, hoping to attract her attention and hand to the matter undealt with. Unfortunately, the girl still had some wits with her, and a blast of cold water shot down on the pair, making him flinch and the lady sigh. Ha ha, what's wrong with me? And why do you have such a massive manhood? Standing back up again and quickly getting the soap out of her hair, Issei was off to one side, manhood still untaken care of, shivering and trying to stay as dry as possible. Soon she hopped out of the tub, grabbing a pair of towels to hide her boba and bum and a third one to wrap around her hair, never looking behind her. In her hurry, she forgot to turn off the water, so stealing her nerves, she turned around to face her newest peerage member, she was the king after all. He was still sitting on one side of the tub, whining due to how cold the water was. Feeling bad, Rias turned off the water and gave her boy a hug. Sorry about that, issei. I didn't mean to chill you like that. I just need some space for a moment. Some time to not think about. She almost peeked around the dog's back to catch another look at his. She pushed the thoughts from her mind. Come on now. She hugged the dog and carried him out of the tub, succeeding on avoiding touching his manhood for now. Once he was on the floor, he started to shake around, shooting water everywhere. Ah, no, stop, please. The Crimson Head tried to shield her eyes from the sudden onslaught, drooping her towels except the one wrapped around her head. The towels fell on the dog and he stopped shaking, trying to figure out why it suddenly got so dark. Seeing a chance, Rias took the opportunity to grab the last towel in the bathroom and started to head out of the bathroom while drying herself off. I'll see you later, boy. Go ahead and explore your new home. I'm just going to my room to rest up a bit. My door will be open if you need something. With that, the high-class girl left the bathroom to try to calm down and figure out what was wrong with her. If she hadn't turned on the cold water, she probably would have. No, she mustn't think like that. How shameful. Her family would never approve, and her future, actually F that guy. He could go straight to a deeper hell as far as she cared. To try to get her mind off of recent events, the lady decided to do some research. There must be something special about that dog, but what though? That thought of discovering why her peerage was targeted before moved to the forefront of her mind. The dog in question was currently trying to dry himself off in the towels tossed on him. That plus enjoying the smell of his master while forming plans of his own. A night to remember. Chapter summary. The Crimson Princess decided to do some research, while her pet explored her apartment. The results are all mixed to nothing as she struggled to learn more about her strange circumstances. Rias gets a somewhat rude awakening as she finds herself getting closer to issei much faster than expected. Also, he learns a few new tricks. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Laying in bed with nothing on, Rias was doing some research on her laptop. It was top of the line and had a few magical functions that allowed her access to some very restricted sites about magic and news about various mythical factions. It also had a functioning ad blocker, which was a nice plus. The first thing that she searched up was whether or not there were any other animals that reacted to evil pieces. She found nothing except a few mythical creatures being able to be turned into devils. But all those creatures already had a human form that they could transform into before the evil piece could be put in them. Anything non-magical or ones who didn't already have a human form could not be taken as a servant, as far as the world knew. Her search then expanded to see if any animals could have sacred gears, or have latent magical powers. Her search once again came up empty with no credible results, since sacred gears are only supposed to go into descendants of humans, so no animals should have one. However, Rias knew that she had sensed something from that dog earlier, and so had an angel or fallen based on how she found issei. A strange thought then crossed her mind, something that she probably wouldn't have thought about except for the fact that she had spent some time at her dog's manhood in the shower earlier. She started to look up the chances of a child being conceived between a beast and a human. That was when her results exploded. So turns out, there were multiple spells, rituals, and concoctions that could lead to the cross-breeding among usually incompatible creatures and people. Unironically, a lot of those matings lead to multiple types of half-breeds, which is why there was a pretty diverse group of species in the magical realms. Go figure. The mixing of different types of animals and people were also used in the summoning of more powerful entities, making components for future rituals, or for doing curses. There were a surprising amount of practical uses. There were graphic depictions of various people fing or being f'd by various creatures, and it was taking a toll on Rias. She had unconsciously moved one of her hands to her womanhood, and was starting to rub it gently. The Crimson Princess started to finger herself even faster when a video starring a succubus started playing, where the lady was explaining why animals were such great FS when she got a call from Akino. Trying to steady her breath, she picked up her friend. "Hi there, Akino, what do you need?" She put a hand on her chest to calm herself. "Nothing much, I just wanted to check in on the situation of our newest peerage member," Akino said on the other line. Running water could be heard on the other side. "They are doing fine, I have named them issei. Oh really, how come? The sound of clothes being stripped off could be heard. I don't know, the name just fits. Water being displaced came over the connecting circle. I see. How do you feel about the newest member? Have they left an impression on you yet? Her mind wandered over to the massive breaker that the dog was carrying, and her horniness went up a little. Rias, are you still there? Aquino asked, now fully submerged in her tub. Oh yes, I still am. I just know that he seems to be much smarter than your average dog, and that he was killed by an angel for a reason. In her mind, she was starting to think about how the dog would feel touching her with his manhood, slobbering all over her needy womanhood. She knew that she shouldn't do this with her friend over the line, but her womanhood was starting to ache, and Aquino probably wouldn't know what she was thinking about or if she started playing with herself again. Okay, I hope that this pans out for us. We need more members as soon as possible for the upcoming rating game against Riser. Ria stopped rubbing her lips for a second to groan in disgust, her mood going down. Don't even talk to me about that guy for now, she complained before going back to gently rubbing herself. Understood. Still, do you have any ideas for the expansion of our peerage? No clue yet, We still have some time though to increase our numbers. If you or Kaneko have any ideas, do let me know, okay? No problem, Rias. We will follow you in any decision to help reach your goals. Ha, thank you, Aquino. Have a good night. Good night, Rias. The call ended, and Rias continued to think about the large manhood and knot that she saw earlier. The thought of touching it scared her, but the idea didn't seem that bad. It seemed like devils didn't have the same hang-ups as humans. That didn't mean that things ended when she heard a whine and scratch at her door. Getting up to check on it, she opened up the door to see Issei waiting for her there. Oh, there you are, her womanhood still wet from fantasizing about the dog in front of her. She had to show some self-control and strength as her peerage's king though, and it's not like she was actually interested in a dog, right? Issei went into her room and started wandering around it, giving everything a good sniff. He seemed to enjoy the smells before he got onto Rias's bed and laid on it where Rias was earlier, facing her. Oh silly boy, are you tired? The dog barked yes. Okay, I guess that it is time to sleep now anyway. She crawled next to the dog that she was fantasizing about earlier, hoping that she didn't smell odd or seemed out of place. Issei on the other hand was thinking, holy, this girl is naughty, and these womanhood juices are pretty good right now, as he licked the wet spot that was forming on the girl's bed earlier. He knew to still bide his time though, but he hoped that he didn't have to wait that much longer since his manhood was already coming out of his sheath. Good night, Issei, sweet dreams. She kissed the dog on the forehead before lying down and clapping her hands, thus flooding the room in darkness. Some time later, in Rias's dreams, she was enjoying the sensation of a large tongue licking at her womanhood, rubbing all of her sensitive spots. She was getting closer and closer to intense pleasure, but every time that she got close, her lover would stop. Ria started to move her hips forward toward the tongue, but it would back away slowly if she pushed too hard towards it. Her tongue started to hang out of mouth as she started panting. A salty taste soon appeared on the tip of her lips, sliding up and down it. Enjoying the taste, she rubbed her taste buds along it, till she felt that lean away from her too. Her mouth felt empty for a moment, that was until the tip of something pushed up against her tongue, and started to slide into her mouth, waking her up. There she found Issei humping her mouth while leaning back to move into her throat. Hey, wait a minute, which actually got the dog to stop for a moment. Issei leaned back, withdrawing his manhood from her mouth, giving the girl some space. She started up at the manhood that was just pointed at her mouth, dirtying her tongue. Rias thought back to her dream about getting licked by a fantastic tongue, realizing that it came from her newest peerage member. They felt the burning of their loins and the heat coming from the manhood above them. Giving up the fight with herself, she slowly started to lean her head forward, back to lapping up the side of the dog's manhood. That was when a light purplish, pinkish glow began to emanate from the base of Issei's knot, faint enough that nobody noticed. Not being able to hold back anymore, Rias started to give gentle S along the shaft, enjoying how rigged and veiny it felt in her mouth. She couldn't wrap her whole mouth around it yet, but that didn't stop her from tasting every single inch of the delicious manhood meat as her lower lips were being out like never before. For a pair of virgins, the two of them were going at each other like animals, rutting into each other with no abandon. All that could be heard in the room was the sloppy mess of tongue rubbing on genitals. The mad move ing coming from the mutt was soon focused all on the tip, with them trying to push their manhood straight into Rias's mouth. Already enraptured by the taste of dog meat, Rias let the wide shaft slip into her mouth, which promptly pushed its way into her throat, causing her to gag. She could feel her mind slipping due to how big the manhood in her tonsils were, but that didn't matter over how much she wanted to slobber all over the doggy manhood. As each move pounded in her mouth, it became easier and easier for her to take it, her head bobbing up and down on her pillow. Her crimson hair that she loved so much was being stepped on, while her hands spread her womanhood to get more and more of the dog's maw into her, not being able to stretch any more yet. Soon the red-haired lady was talking half the shaft in without width, but it was barely enough for the dog, who wanted more. She can really take it, can't she? Issei thought. But she could do so much better if her throat could take me all the way. Suddenly, Rias came for the first time that night, her womanhood tightening around the doggy mouth that was move ing into her. Her gag reflex disappeared for a moment, and Issei was able to completely move his shaft into her, rubbing his knot right across her lips in a passionate kiss, stretching his legs out as he enjoyed the sensation of getting his dirty manhood all the way down her throat, stretching it out to the max. He came for the first time in his king, and she enjoyed every moment as doggy liquid poured down her throat, her tongue savoring the taste as the thick liquid filled her stomach. Even when Issei was trying to pull out, her liquid-soaked mind barely let her lips loosen as she ate him off for all that his first shot was worth, ending with a pop as his tip poked out. Rias was sobbing and out of breath as she started to liquid down from her high, not fully understanding what had happened to her. One moment she was having a wet dream, the next moment she was ing doggy manhood. What she didn't know was that she had been calling Issei's name in her sleep and had started to subconsciously jack off the dog right next to her. He took that as the opportunity to play with his master and explore her body. Based on current events, it looked like she didn't mind all that much. This is why the mutt decided to move forward with his plans and walked over to her muff, which was dripping wet with her own womanhood juices and dog slobber. Placing his hind legs on top of her giant boba, he started to tap his huge shaft on her stomach and womanhood. Kia, she squealed as she felt the hard piece of flesh hit her pleasure bum. She didn't consider herself a masochist, but having been licked there for so long and being so turned on from ing off an animal's manhood, there was no way that any stimulation wouldn't feel good. Issei kept teasing her by rubbing his shaft across her womanhood, never entering her, as if telling her to put it in herself. In Issei's mind, holy, this is tight, I can't fit in myself. Wait, let me try again, on repeat. Wanting to please her pet, she leaned forward and gave the dog a kiss on the snout. I got this, boy, just let me. Far past the point of no return already, Rias lined up the pointy tip of the dog manhood to her womanhood so that he could move into her. She didn't care one bit about how taboo everything was. All she cared about was getting her fill of naughty manhood. Issei, letting her adjust him, got the hint and waited till she had completely put his tip in, getting another whine from her. With her full permission, he then moved all the way into her waiting maw, all in one go except the knot, forever reshaping her womanhood to only be able to take beastly insertions. Rias squealed as she suddenly remembered that she still was a virgin, at least till a second ago, where it was brutally ripped apart by the dog currently move ing into her. The light glow from earlier was now brighter, but still nobody paid attention to it. All that mattered was Issei move ing into Rias as much as he could. His foot-long shaft was currently punching up against her cervix, hitting every fold in her body, making her squirm in both discomfort and pleasure, as the huge manhood made her belly deform. Issei was also manhandling her both his paws as he pounded into her missionary style. Rias was right there with him, bringing her boba down to be played with since her massive bahonkers were big enough for the both of them. Boba point pinches and paw scratches played with her perfect fat bobas, and she wouldn't have it any other way as her insides were being completely rearranged. The girl was taking it like a champ for her first time, and soon she was even move ing back, her hips and legs move ing in tandem with the mud humping into her. Soon, she felt another climax coming, and she was losing her mind at the pleasure brought down upon her. "Ha ha, right there, issei. Keep pounding me right there," she said, using her impressive physical strength to keep her lower body raised for the perfect entry for the beast shaft. Her hands moved from her boob to her womanhood, trying to stretch out the full capacity hole to get more of the doggy manhood into her. "F up my insides, make me think of no other man but you right now." Her thoughts became a little dark for just a moment, but all those negative thoughts melted away due to the rough love that was being given to her. HAA, yes, right there, shove that fat knot into my womanhood, the princess mewed, her body craving the whole thing. Issei, heading the call, and with his power greater than ever before, slid out of his lady's womanhood till only the tip remained. Thus the dog heard a lady's voice burst into his mind for the first time. "Boost!" The voice in the dog's head cried out as he gave a mighty push, hilting himself all the way before breaking right through Rias's womanhood lips, shoving his knot right into her, his tip reaching past her cervix, piercing right into her womb. Rias cried out in pain, pleasure, and submission as her body was overwhelmed with all the feelings that were given from being touched in a place that no regular man could go, much less where a dog should go. None of that mattered to either one of them, though, since it felt so good to be filled so much that the outline of Issei's manhood could be felt on the outside of Rias's lower body. The two were stuck there for a moment, suspended in rapture as both got used to new sensations overtaking their bodies. "Well then, Mutt, what are you waiting for? Take her!" The voice cried out in the dog's head again, willing him forward and back as he dragged his knot, shaft, and tip inside the girl's womanhood, barely getting any movement from her till he started to give quick short humps in earnest, finding his second wind and being able to start moving inside of her properly, his manhood being a mini sledgehammer into her baby room. Rias could only groan softly, her eyes spinning in defeat as the doggy manhood filled all parts of her that mattered. The only thing that one could hear was the name Issei repeated over and over on Rias's lips, and the painting of that dog trying to hump into her as best as he could as she laid nearly still. If anyone else could see Rias's liquid drunk face, they would have commented, "What?" as she drooled on her own bed. But all good things must come to an end. Issei could feel his first ever load approaching soon, and there was no stopping this feeling. The voice in his head told him that it was paramount that he shot as much liquid into her as possible, which would feel like gallons based on how much his balls were churning. When the time came, so did he. Shot after shot of thick, sticky, doggy liquid went right into Rias's womb, completely filling it up, not letting any room for escape. Even though he couldn't impregnate her yet, he was still trying, pushing his knot in as deep as he could, preventing any liquid from leaking out. Her belly grew even more, filled up with fresh semen, ballooning till it looked like she was a few days pregnant till the stream started to stop from the dog's manhood. Due to how fat his knot was, not a single drop of liquid landed on the bed, and at this point, it wouldn't have mattered. Rias had almost passed out due to the sensation of being liquid med into so completely that her very soul was literally linked to her pawn. There was no going back for her. Issei for just a moment felt like another second wind was about to burst out of him, but instead, he felt incredibly tired, like he had just ran a marathon or expended all of his magical reserves. The glowing coming from the base of his manhood started to fade as a little unfilled heart-shaped mark appeared above Rias's snatch, matching the same glow that was on Issei's manhood earlier. Neither of them noticed or cared at this point, since sleep was soon going to take them. Rias decided that she might as well enjoy the embrace of her lover while she could still keep her eyes open. "Good night, Issei," she sobbed blissfully. "Good night, Rias," he sobbed back. Issei was the first one to wake up the next morning, having tossed and turned throughout the night last night. Waking up, he saw that Rias was still next to him, sleeping gently, her belly slightly swollen with leftover seed, and that the rest had soaked the entirety of her bed. Trotting over to her womanhood, he went to check on the little glowing crest that was on her last night, and didn't see anything. Her skin had gone back to silky smooth white. The only abnormality was her bulging belly full of doggy liquid. Interested in her situation, Issei started to investigate, sniffing around her and also seeing if he could summon the voice that talked into his head to explain the situation to him again. "Hey, that was pretty smart of him. More than what meets the eye, aren't I?" he said excitedly. He paused for a moment. "Holy, I can talk like a human now. He blinked for a moment too. Also, what are all these colors? I never seen this color on a person before. Issei looked over to Rias's crimson hair and sniffed it. Still smells the same. He pawed at her sleeping face a few times, slowly waking up the exhausted girl. Rias slowly opened up her eyes, blinking slowly as she saw her newest pet and peerage member. Good morning, Issei. Good morning, Rias. The lady stared in shock at what her dog had just said. You can talk? Yup. Since when? Since we fed last night. Issei's eyes wandered down to his mistress's boba, which had a light sheen from the drool he dripped onto them last night. He could feel that his balls started to ache a bit as more spunk was being made. But how did you learn how to speak after that? Ria stood up now, her boba shaking around side to side before she was off the bed. She stumbled a bit as her belly made her feel unsteady, but there wasn't any more liquid loss either. Issei enjoyed the view of her firm and well-shaped bum licking his chops as he watched her. His gaze did not go unnoticed by his king. Like what you see, boy, Ria said, turning her head to look at her naughty peerage member. Issei started a bit longer till he noted that Rias spoke to him. Yes. Wait, what did you ask me? Rias giggled at her dog's confusion. Nothing important. But seriously, what taught you how to talk? I don't know, Rias. The mutt's tail and head lowered, disappointed that they couldn't give a good answer. I was just having a good time with you when a voice in my head told me to try harder. After that, I remembered some lights and me saying goodnight to you. That's it. Wait, you heard a voice in your head? Ria started to connect some dots in her head, and a hypothesis was being formed. Yeah, she asked what I was waiting for when I was trying to get my knot inside of you and gave me a boost. His manhood was starting to poke out of his sheath again, and it was slowly rising as he thought about last night. To see. Ria stuttered a bit as she noticed the manhood rising for her, the Crimson Princess's attention starting to drift to more carnal matters. As got closer to Issei, a dull ache began to take over her, and she felt like there was something that needed to go back in her. What do you think about that, Rias? Issei asked, wagging his tail side to side as his foot-long breaker stood at full ready and attention. I think that I need to take care of this first. Rias kneeled in front of the bed, making herself eye level with the knot, taking the manhood in one hand and tapping it against her right cheek. Issei eyed her happily and let her do her own thing, knowing that he was soon going to be in good hands. Rias then grabbed his manhood with her other hand, massaging the base of his knot, making Issei whine in pleasure as his meat was being gently tenderized. Even though Rias was starting to feel more and more manhood drunk as she worshipped the shaft with her tongue, she paid attention to any form of magical flares or activations on her or the dog. Soon she felt the aching in her womb grow, prompting her to put a hand on her mound, feeling the slight surge of power over her. Looking down, there was a small red heart, about the size of her thumb above her snatch. Trying to get to the bottom of it, Ria slipped her mouth around the doggy manhood and licked the tip of it, swirling her tongue around it to moisten the top. Her mouth started to descend upon the thick piece of meat, her throat trying to open up to accept it. You're doing great, Rias, Issei piped up, glad that his king was treating her pawn so well. Wanting to help her task out more, he put a paw on her head. She gave him a look, but nodded to let him continue, so he put a second paw on her head and started to push down on her crimson red hair. She bobbed her head up and down, stopping halfway down, only able to take the top half of his shaft for now. He felt like she could take deeper before, like how she was able to take more last night. Pushing harder, Ria started to gag and gurgle, struggling to take more dog meat down her gullet. Not wanting to hurt her, the dog let up, allowing her to go back up to just lick at the tip with her tongue. Issei wished that he could move up to get more of himself down her mouth, but he was pleasantly surprised when the princess wrapped her arms around his back and propelled herself forward, pushing her jaw, tongue, and throat to the limit as she went down almost all the way to the knot before being unable to go any deeper, gagging so hard, her teeth started to gnaw at his manhood, which he didn't mind all that much since it brought a new sensation to his manhood. She slid off weakly, having lost her breath, the breaker proving too large for her little mouth for now. Coughing, she tried to speak. Issei, I need you to F me. Wiping her mouth, she spread herself eagle on the carpet, fingering herself with the pre-manhood liquid and spit that she collected. Absolutely ready, he hopped off the bed and jumped onto the ground, his manhood harder than ever from the sloppy toppy that he had received. Circling around her, he gave her a few licks on the cheek before Rias went deeper and gave him a French kiss, slipping his tongue into her mouth, enjoying the way that she was being completely filled again. Her womanhood was getting wetter too, and she felt ready to take her whole dog now. She slapped her womanhood a bit to get his attention, which he interpreted to lick her down there. "Ah, as much as I enjoy your tongue down there, I am more than wet enough to take you right now. Also take a look at this." She patted his head to get the dog's attention and pointed at the small unfilled red heart right above her womanhood. "You did that." He came in closer to sniff and look at the heart. "It smells kind of like me." "Like you marked me, huh?" "Well, not fully yet." The dog smirked a bit. "Want me to?" His tail wagged back and forth. "Sure, why not?" The Crimson Princess not yet knowing the implications. Excitedly the dog starts to pace around his master, before pointing his rod at her legs first. A stream of yellowish pee came out, covering her milky things before traveling up to spray on her womanhood. "That tickles a bit, huh? But it feels kind of nice too," Rias commented. "Aw, still going," Issei said as he traveled up her stomach over her navel. Before shooting his mark on her bobas, he gave extra attention there, rubbing his manhood between her giant mounds, enjoying the baba job as he marked her face at the same time. Rias tasted the salty liquid, and found it to her taste. It was soaking into her cherished crimson hair too, but she was too engrossed in doggy manhood to care. "Mark me as yours, Issei, that's a good boy." "Ha, I think that's everything." The dog sighed as his stream ended with him firmly between his master's bobas. This didn't stop her from caressing his mounds with her heavenly feeling boba, nor did it stop the dog from humping her valley. His manhood barely peeked between them, a testament to both of their massive organs. Getting closer, are ya?" The Crimson Princess moved her tips up, the dog forward so that she could raise her mouth to swirl her tongue around his doggy tip, just barely stimulating him with her tongue. Pre-manhood liquid was lapped up quickly, light sobs coming out of her mouth as she enjoyed the taste of doggy pre. The brown fur mutt could only quiver as he tried to push deeper between her bobas, enjoying the light sensation at the end as her mouth breathed upon his end. His knot couldn't fit inside between her bobas since it was so large, so she was in complete control of the pace. That was till a voice started to speak in the dog's mind. "Oh, come on, thee is marked as yours already, just claim her." "Already?" The strong female voice ran in the dog's mind. Issei tried to move harder, but the soft sensation from Rias' boba and the way that she looked at him affectionately made him pause for a moment. Just a moment. Leaping forward, Rias could only send out a muffled wah as Issei shoved the rest of his manhood into her maw, nearly choking the girl before he stopped with his knot pushed up against her face, giving her some time to stop panicking and learn to breathe through her nose. With her air flow under control again, Issei started up the pace, face fing his into the ground of the carpeted floor, her bobbing her head a bit to keep Frenching the knot at the Ned, but it wasn't going to be enough till she was making out with his balls. Rias seemed to agree with this because she soon closed her eyes to focus on just the doggy manhood move into her, his scent marked all around her and in her nose. Her mouth was nowhere normally wide enough to take the knot though, and unless some magical source helped them out to push through her sore lips, there was no way that the lady could take the entire thing. Fortunately for them, they had a little buff coming in. "Boost!" A voice in Issei's head rang out again, suddenly doubling his move ing force, allowing him shove his knot right past her teeth and fill her mouth completely. Rias's face hurt from the sudden intrusion, but she could barely feel any of that as the dog started to shoot his massive load straight into her stomach, blocking out her throat completely as it was filled with sticky doggy liquid. There was no escape as her insides were filled up by white cream, Issei still humping her face as she squeezed her lips around his knot, her teeth lightly massaging it to keep it pumping her full. Her spit couldn't come out of her mouth due to how tightly sealed the knot kept everything, so she had to learn how to swallow with a doggy manhood completely filling her esophagus. Rias's belly bulged a bit as the stream of jizz entered her mouth. She felt incredibly hungry for some reason, and the spunk tasted divine, so why not partake? Her breath slowed as she could only think about servicing her pawn, and the fact that she just had a full breakfast with all the spunk being poured in her. There was no real indication that she had just swallowed nearly a quart of good doggy stock, except for a little inflation on her tight-looking stomach. Issei soon started to tug backwards, trying to get his flesh out of Rias, and she helped him out by stretching her mouth as wide as possible and pushing back. Issei ended up spraying the rest of her face and a lot of her hair with his liquid, painting her in white all over. HAA, the Crimson Princess could only pant as she tried to adjust to the pain that her jaw was in and grabbed some air. Her dog tried to help out by kissing her on the lips, swirling his tongue in her overloaded mouth. She tried to weakly return the kiss, but his tongue basically just bullied her into the back of her own mouth before dragging on her chin to start ing on her bobas. Each one got a love bite, right on the areolas, making her arch her back in pain and pleasure as it left teeth marks around each one. The dog had other plans though before he was finished. Having experienced liquiding with his king already, he wasn't going to be tuckered out with one go. Ria summoned a magic circle by her aching lips and one appeared by Issei's ear. A telepathic message played out in his mind. "Can you please grab me that phoenix tear in the bedside drawer?" Her hazy gaze fell onto the spot with the tear. Issei got up and approached the nightstand, pulling on the handle with his teeth and yanking it open. Getting on the bed, he looked inside and saw a few odd items, but he figured that the item needed was one of the vials of red liquid. Taking one in his mouth, he brought it over to Rias, who drank it. "Ah, that's better." She adjusted her healed jaw and turned towards Issei. "Now ready to continue?" "Hell yeah!" the perverted dog said excitedly. He was already feeling the effects of blue balls due to all the waiting he had to do, and couldn't wait to pound his into the ground like last night. "Okay, let me get into position first," Rias said as she turned over, getting into a low, shaking her fine bum side to entice her man. Issei loved where this was going and shoved his snout into her wet snatch, rubbing his nose right into it to memorize the scent forever. "Ah, Issei, you naughty boy, you are really getting a good whiff of me, aren't you?" she cooed as she rubbed his nose into her snatch up and down. You just smell so good, and I want to be able to remember this scent wherever I go." Issei started to lick up the dripping womanhood juices as Rias got wetter from the sensation of her dog rubbing his face against her muff. "Taste too, of course," he said as he wiggled his tongue deeper inside of her. "Take as much time as you want, I love what you are doing." Rias leaned forward, her baba flat to the ground as she reached behind herself to spread her cheeks to give her pet easier access. Trying to remember, Issei wondered if he ever checked her health. Thus he moved his nose upwards to check on her bum hole. "Hey, what are you doing back there?" Rias said worryingly when she felt the tongue slide between her bum crack. She didn't really hate the feeling, but it did surprise her and sent a shock down her spine. "I didn't get to check your health yesterday, and I want to memorize your musk here too, 1 second," Issei said, putting his nose right into her puckered star. He swirled it around a little bit, his mouth panting into her womanhood. She tried her best to stay still as he explored her rear end, his hot breath tickling her. Stifling a sob, scooted away and twerked her bum for the dog. "Issei, I need you now," she whined, trying to get the dog to stop leading her down a strange path and just F her. Not wanting to make her wait any longer, he slapped his meat on her ass cheeks with a large smack. Her bum laid still as he put his hind legs on her back, prodding her waiting hole with his manhood before trying to shove everything in one go, hilting at 10 inches, prodding right against her cervix, bashing in for entry. Rias whelped with pain and pleasure, her belly taking in the shape of the mud meat inside of her again. She rocked her hips back against her lover as best as she could, trying to get those last 2 inches inside of her. She wasn't built for it yet, but she would well try to get as much doggy manhood inside of her as possible. Issei was feeling her efforts and was rewarding each of her move back with one forward of his own, pushing his pelvis up against hers to try to knot her up again. Her body wasn't letting him go deeper though, so he had to come with a plan. Looking within, he called on the voice in his head. "Hey lady, mind helping me out a little?" The dog thought in his mind. "I am not just some lady, I am a dragon." The voice in his head yelled at him, making him jolt forward, missing stride and poking right into Rias's cervix. Right there, Issei, push it right into me. Make me feel just like last night." Getting there, ha, Rias, the dog said before continuing his humps, wrapping his front paws around the girl's waist as best as he could. Come on, Lady Dragon, help me out here, the dog begged. His moves were slowing down, trying to focus on the voices in his head, and Rias noticed. Come on, issei, you got this, don't make me wait. Rias slowed down herself, almost pulling herself off completely except for the tip which she teased by swinging her hips side to side. Issei had to close his eyes to focus on the dragon lady instead of not being able to not. His king, see, she's begging for it too now. Can you please do the thing you did last night? That burst thing? He continued to beg. It is boost, you fool! And I must conserve my energy for it is so. Faint now! There was a short pause, but fine, claiming this may increase my power if done right. Another pause. Issei was starting to tap his hind legs and whine in impatience while Rias started turning around to see if he was okay. Fine, finish claiming this, and find more. You got it, boss. Issei said out loud, forgetting to keep things in his head. Boss, I prefer princes or wait, what's going on? Bust. A sudden surge of red and green light started to appear around Issei's manhood, brighter than before, and the veinous structure seemed to grow inside, a solid 2 inches, making the breaker even longer and a bit wider at the knot. It also came crashing down into Rias's womb all in one go, shoving her face forward and flattening her bobets. Issei took that surge of power to get completely off the floor and push her all the way down. He was now riding her with legs off the ground, but his move hitting twice as hard with half the control. They started pounding into the girl with heavy strikes into her cervix, making her scream out his name as her little tight hole inside finally gave way to the savage beast, shoving 4 inches of doggy manhood meat into her womb. Issei, oh Satan, right there, F me in the baby room, where no other man has been before. She yelled with abandon, her stomach completely deformed by the manhood poking into her now. A bulge in her belly showed where the tip of his manhood was, stretching her out. Issei was now mindlessly prodding his manhood with shallow move into her forbidden chamber, rearranging it so that it would be easier to accept him from now on. Whenever he wanted, her inner hole changed forever to be able to take a doggy manhood. Whenever he wanted, whenever she desired him, that hole was now stretched out forever to take the tip and shaft, her womb a vessel for liquid. The short moves were taking their toll, the womb womanhood squeezing tighter than ever as it welcomed its new master, with the rest of her womanhood his shaft for all that he was worth. The heart-shaped marking on Rias's belly was glowing now, with the same light that was rearranging her insides to take so much more than before. None of that mattered though, since Issei still hadn't gotten his knot in yet, since it had swelled in size again, not getting past her sopping womanhood lips. Issei was filled with determination though, and even without the lady in his head pushing him forward, he still would have gone all the way just to hear his lady keep screaming his name. With that, he pushed as deep as he could in, plowing Rias' spum straight into the ground, not letting any room for escape. Rubbing the edge of the knot up against her lips, he swayed it from side to side, putting more and more power into pushing through her limits. Make her take that knot, and with the fading energy from the boost before, he shoved it past her outer walls, invading deep inside her, getting his 4-inch knot straight into her cooch, reshaping it again. Oh Satan, it's a miag again, ayaha, she screamed as her hole was stretched beyond any reason that it should, the mark over her womb growing larger as it grew to 6 inches, which was the same amount of manhood meat currently ing inside of her baby room. The knot had sealed the dog into the girl, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't still pulling her along, teasing her inner labia by taking half of the knot out before shoving the 4-inch bulge back in. Her womanhood couldn't close properly anymore, and could now take even the huge ball going in and out of her. That didn't mean that she wasn't tight though. Every time that his Tim rammed into the end of her womb, she gave a vice grip too. He pulled back, sliding along her cervix and inner walls which were completely slick with her juices and his pre. Rias was struggling to remain conscious as her reasoning was being destroyed by the massive amount of mud inside of her. That was until her body couldn't take it anymore and loosened its grip on Issei, making her slide off of him slowly. The dog was too tired and distracted to care as his prey fell off his meat. Looking inside, her OS made a few quivering kissing motions as it attempted to close, barely able to go back to a mockery of her original shape. With the lineup ready, he rocketed right into her womb, not pushing past her opening, and came right inside of her again, filling up her insides with what could have been a gallon of beastly manhood liquid, invading all of her insides and making her let out a silent scream as half a foot of thick, doggy meat went deep into her end zone. The heart glowing over her womb filled up as well, but nobody took notice as the little 6-inch thing exploded into little sparkles till a much smaller and detailed heart design appeared, back to the original size of last night, barely larger than 2 inches. The X-ray was still swirling around inside as he gyrated his hips, trying to enjoy the sensation of over-fing his, making her belly swell with his seed as he continued to fill up her insides. The crimson-haired could barely hold on, and just so as her body was used like a good fleshlight. Her stomach swelled so that if someone were to just take a glance at her, they would have thought that she was filled with puppies. Fortunately, she was enjoying every moment of being destroyed on the inside, and if she could, she would do everything in her power to get the ball rolling again. A part of him knew that she wasn't going to be getting his pups anytime soon, but he didn't care. Issei had done something no man had done before, which was Rias Gremory into submission using just their wang. And he wasn't done yet. With newfound power comes newfound responsibility, and that responsibility required him to her until she passed the out. Even as he felt the embers of his power and growth dying out, his manhood shrinking back to a foot long, that meant that he could just try to go as deep as possible into Rias. His second wind was now taking full effect. Issei started to toy with her womanhood again. Ha ha ha, what are you doing now, boy? Rias asked as she tried to recollect herself, and felt Issei start to shift behind her, getting his legs on the ground again instead of on her. Yes, another round? I'm ready. Rias tried to lift her own hips, but they proved useless since she couldn't get the strength to go any higher. Maybe, give me a moment? Ha, fine, I can. Wait. Issei said, getting some of his control back. He was coming down from his high, and he knew that Rias would be ready for another round in a moment. To occupy himself, the dog flipped Rias over and laid on top of her full belly to start playing with her giant bob gently while rubbing his manhood against her bloated belly, which was leaking liquid out of her engorged opening. It was almost wholesome and soothing if Issei grew much more impatient over time, making him start to manhandle her baba while the liquid continued to drip out of Rias. That and the fact that Issei had started to hump her baba while he was waiting. His tailhole was right in Rias's line of sight and her pants for air were starting to tickle his balls as she looked up to her pawn that was boba fing her. Taking in his musk made her feel light-headed, but ready for more. Him humping also made his beady sweat more, and the position brought more of his scent out. Issei is right. People do want to smell others' bum mess. She shook that thought from her head though to focus on more important matters. Hey Issei, I think that I'm ready to keep going, the crimson-haired princess said, rubbing her liquid-filled and soaked belly. There was a sudden ring as Rias's phone rang. Issei's ears pricked up and he trotted over to the phone and grabbed it for her, unfortunately slobbering over it, but at least the phone didn't crack. Looking over the screen, Rias frowned. So this is our newest peerage member, Issei. Rias had dressed herself in a thick pair of sweatpants and sweatshirt, used a spell to help clear out the spell, and told Issei to lay on her bed. Say hello to the rest of your peerage members, Issei, the Crimson Princess said nervously. The lady had also put a thick pad underneath her womanhood and expelled as much of the liquid as possible into another pad before getting rid of it with her power of destruction. Unfortunately, she couldn't sit down and look cool like she wanted because when she sat down, a large stinging sensation with no pleasure made her whelp, and herself. Thus she needed a new change of sweat clothing. So now she was introducing the dog like a game show host, giving it her all to Akino and Kaneko. Akino wore her usual unreadable smile while Kaneko looked at the dog disappointedly. Actually, she was standing at the bedroom door as far away from the dog as possible. So, I am not disappointed, but why Issei? Akino was trying to figure out why her king chose this creature specifically, and Kaneko was just looking at the panting dog on the bed. 'Cause I believe that this dog has a sacred gear that can help us out in the future, and my evil piece reacted to him. There is no way that a mutt could have a sacred gear. Only humans and their descendants can have those. Kaneko said, annoyed that her king was even considering this. The dog can talk, Kaneko shouted, getting closer to the bed. Rias raised an arm in front of her mate, while Akino stayed quiet, directing her full attention to the dog now. Yup, Issei said, wagging his tail and starting to get up. Rias put a hand on his head to pet him and keep him on the bed. She had a feeling like his manhood standing wasn't completely gone yet. And I have a lady in my head that talks to me sometimes too. See, he isn't just a random dog, Rias said excitedly. We finally have another person for our peerage, and I feel like this is a turning point in our lives. She tried to quickly move but stumbled a bit before righting herself. Akino slightly caught her king and helped her stand up again. Are you okay, Rias? Concern clear in her voice. I'm fine. I just had a rough night last night in the rain. I tried finding the angel that killed our newest member, but I couldn't find her. Oh, I know where she is. Issei barked up. Wait, what? Rias asked back. The members of Rias's peerage were also staring at the dog laying down on their king's bed, one who seemed mostly unfazed with what happened. What do you mean that you know where the fallen angel faction is hiding? Why didn't you say anything earlier? Kaneko leapt up, hissing at the dog. Sorry, I didn't know. Issei curled up on the bed more and bowed his head. It's not his fault, Kaneko. He was literally just killed and came back yesterday. Rias also stood up and put a hand between Kaneko and Issei. Two died yesterday? Issei lifted his head up, looking over at Rias, then the rest of his peerage members. Did you all die before? His ears laid flat against his head, looking over at the black-haired Japanese beauty and the shorter white-haired girl. Am I still dead? Is this heaven or hell? Neither, Issei, Akino piped up, moving over to comfort the shaking animal. Rias nodded towards her queen before walking towards the agitated Kaneko, giving her a few head pats, to calm her down a bit. You're still on Earth. You have just been reincarnated as a devil by our master Rias. She gestured towards the crimson-haired princess who was now hugging her youngest peerage member. Stay calm, please. Everything will be explained in a moment. She sat down next to the dog and started patting him on the head. Issei stopped whimpering and leaned into her touch, putting his head by Akino's creamy thighs, rubbing up against them. They giggled affectionately at this. Ah, you're pretty sweat, aren't you, Issei? She held his head in two hands and lifted his head while lowering hers. Don't worry, you'll figure out what is going on soon. We'll explain everything to you in a bit. Before that, why don't you tell us about the angel base? Okay, Issei started. They are living in an abandoned church up the mountainous area right now. Two used to live around there too, since it felt safe till a few months ago. They have been in my territory for months now? Rias said, approaching Issei, anger in her voice. What else can you tell me about them? Not much. The moment that I saw strangers coming to the church, I immediately left. One of them, a dark-haired lady, found me last week and took me back there for a few days. I smelled about 20 people with 3 of them sticking out to me in particular. They scared me the most, and they seemed to be bossing everyone else around. They also didn't smell like regular people. They smelled much more dangerous. So, it looks like there are likely 3 fallen angels, and a group of excommunicated humans helping them. We should expect at least a few of them to be exorcists too, so they will be armed. She gazed over to her peerage, and we likely won't have enough firepower to get through their forces now. We need more members to fill out our ranks. Let's try our best to find those who can fill our ranks while also finding out what the fallen angels are doing here. Also why they tried to kill Issei here. Rias walked over towards her pet, and he jumped off the bed to be petted by his master. By now his manhood standing had gone back into his sheath, and Akino didn't notice a thing, but Kaneko took a step away from the dog's musk for a moment, putting her hand over her nose. For now, let's start watching over the fallen angel base, and see what we can find. Kaneko and Akino, you two take the front and lower end of the mountain. Me and Issei will scout out the back end of the woods around their base. Use your familiars to help search and contact us if you find anything. Both of the girls nodded and Issei barked in agreement. Have fun on your outing with our king, okay, Issei? Akino teased, quickly ruffling the dog's mangy brown hair. She started to make a circle to teleport her and her partner out. Don't slow Rias down, dog. Kaneko quickly ran over to Akino and glared over to Issei, making him flinch. The white-haired girl scared him for some reason, but he couldn't figure out why. He tried approaching closer, but her glare stopped him. Akino just smiled weakly at that and waved to the rest of her peerage as she and Kaneko disappeared. Sorry, Rias, I didn't make a good first impression, he said as he bowed his head. That's okay, Issei, it happens. Kaneko needs some time to warm up to you, and I am sure that you will fit in soon. Cheer up, please. Rias scratched both sides of his head, top and bottom, making his tail wag across the target. Also, one more thing, be sure to not expose yourself outside, okay? What do you mean? Rias pointed down towards Issei's balls. It would be problematic if what we did gets exposed, even before it gets found out anyway that I had mating. What's wrong with having mating? Is it bothering you? No, I think you are great, wonderful even. It's just, we can't let others know that I am not a virgin anymore and I don't want others to judge us for what we did. They wouldn't understand. Rias paused at this. A few days ago, she would have been one of those people, but now here she is, talking to a dog that fed her last night and explaining how they should keep it on the down low. Understood, I won't do anything unless you let me. Issei put up a paw to his head and stood up straight, like a mock salute. Good boy, now, let us go start our mission. Rias formed her own circle beneath her, a crimson glow enveloping hound and master. Issei circled Rias excitedly as the circle raised and teleported the pair up the secluded mountain by Ke, the city that they were in. The crimson-haired princess and the brown-haired mud arrived on the mountain near Ke, about halfway up, above their intended scout target. Issei spent a moment sniffing around, trying to get a read of the area. How did you know where the church was? His sniffing was starting to get results. We know of all landmarks around where we reside. It would be wrong for the ones who manage a territory to not know what goes in and out of their vicinity. Rias's face frowned and scrunched at this. Unfortunately, I didn't think about checking in on that old church for a while since the last audit. That, plus there was no sign of activity of fallen angels in town proper, we were left unaware. Damn it. She kicked a rock with her foot, sending it forward till it hit a tree and broke its bark. Issei jumped back a bit, started at the display of strength. Whoa! You could do that? Issei was still hunched down, ready to run if needed. Yeah, I am a purebred demon after all. We may look fairly human, but remember, she unfurled her wings and tail, her wingspan dwarfing the dog who hopped back again. She kneeled and embraced her pet. Are much stronger than the average person, and we will continue to grow stronger together. He nodded at this. For our future dreams and desires, may they all be met and new wishes made to be fulfilled again. The wheels in the dog's mind started to turn, wondering where he wished to go. I hope you will continue to follow me to the end, dear. She gave the dog a kiss on the nose, almost chaste, and stood up. Issei gazed in awe at his goddess and nodded his head with conviction, and tail wagged in joy. He then stood up and rubbed her womanhood area with his head. Yes, to hell and back. Wherever you go, I will follow. His tail wagged even faster, as I and the others. I hope that we will always have each other's back. She held his head still as the two shared a tender moment. I hope to meet your expectations, and become closer to your pack. He then backed up, but his body still shook with excitement. Pack? Is that what you call us? Rias paused for a moment. Sure, why not, we're a pack. For some reason, the word just felt right to her. She smiled down on him. Now, let's continue our mission. Of course, Master. The pair then started to carefully go down towards the fallen angel base, Issei in the lead, sniffing the way forward. Wait one moment. Issei held up a paw behind him, finding an interesting scent. Rias stopped as she watched the dog go inside a bush and pulled out a pair of black feathers, a strange scent to the dog emanating from them. He turned to his master and held the feathers for her to examine. She brought them up to her face and smiled at her peerage member. Excellent job, these came from a pair of 2 different fallen angels, and we can examine them later to see how strong that they might be, or if we can find some data on them. Ria started heading down again till she noticed that Issei was still in the bush. Aren't you coming, dear? One moment, I need to mark this territory as ours. No fallen angels allowed, Issei said, in the informative. What do you mean, Mark? What are you doing? Rias realized a little late when she saw the manhood coming out. The only thing not coming out was the knot. What do you mean? We need to show that we own this area, and that they can't stay here. His knot had come out, and the throbbing breaker was swinging side to side, its normal foot-long length making Rias stare at it uncontrollably. No, we can't be found out that we are spying on them. You can't mark this place. She approached the hound and bent down to look closer for some reason. She didn't understand it herself. She checked the wards meant to hide them from enemy sight, and only let those in her peerage see and hear them. They were still active, and she didn't feel any tempering on them. Rias turned her eyes back to the massive manhood that was now hovering in front of her, and Issei was trying to figure out what to do. Isn't it obvious, you fool? You have a willing in front of you. Mark her. A green and red glow started to appear around Issei's balls, and he could feel them suddenly tighten. Issei suddenly moved his pecker forward, pushing his tip up against her nose, making her take in her musk. The small heart mark above her womb manifested again, and Rias could feel her body start to heat up. She could feel her hand moving to aim the manhood lower, and Issei let her reposition his manhood into her tight little mouth, her tongue running along the end, tickling him as he tried to hold back and follow his master's orders. She soon started to jack him off as he continued to try to hold back, but she was being persistent. It was like Rias was under some type of compulsion, making her off the dog like it was the only thing that mattered. If anyone could have seen the mark above her womanhood, they would have noticed that it was glowing in the same way that his manhood was glowing. Rias, I am almost going to blow here. Issei was trying to not hump her face into the ground as his balls continued to swell with fluid. They had grown to the size of grapefruits now, and it was making him feel uncomfortable. Inside, madame, insisted me, the crimson-haired princess said as she continued to on the tip of the dog's manhood. Taking his cue, he started to her mouth, then her throat, then her skull as she stayed kneeled in front of the dog, letting him move past her lips, getting 8 inches of manhood meat shoved into her. She was gagging, but getting used to breathing through her mouth while still rolling her tongue around his manhood. Drool was starting to drip out of her mouth, and she could feel herself getting wetter as she continued to off Issei. Feeling his dam about to break, Issei warned her, I'm about to mark you. Here I come. Rias held him close, moving her arms behind the dog's back till he started pouring her stomach with his, flowing quickly down her throat. She could feel the manhood in her mouth swell and twitch in her mouth as her insides were filled with Issei's pee. The flow became too great though, being pushed out of her throat by her gag reflex, till her mouth was overflowing. With a little bit of her mind still intact, she quickly formed a large construct bowl to quickly catch some of the leaving Issei's balls as she couldn't keep the flow in her mouth anymore. That didn't stop her from trying to in as much as possible as she kept kissing the tip as the marking fluid dripped down her mouth and throat onto her skirt and shirt. Her black boba outfit showed through her white shirt, and the wet spot on her panties grew. The light from her womb was growing stronger, and if her skirt wasn't so thick, it would have been noticed by anyone nearby. Issei and Rias didn't sense anyone around, so they kept going for a few minutes, with Rias enjoying the salty taste and the bowl expanding till almost a gallon of was left over. The flow soon stopped, and Issei took his manhood out of her mouth. He wanted to jump her now, but they still had a mission to complete. Using as much willpower as he could muster, he pulled out of her and sprayed her face with the rest of his marking fluid. Panting to calm himself down, he looked over to Rias. We need to keep going. Ha! He was backing back into the bush, and trying to make his manhood standing calm down. Rias was still in a daze, and the bowl construct was shaking a bit. Trying to shake her from her trance, he went up and licked her cheek, which seemed to work. Where's the manhood? She said, smacking her lips and licking them. Rias licked her other side and that seemed to take her out of it. Ha, what? She looked down at the bowl before her, and she felt like she should drink it. Rias shook her head though and tried to concentrate. The heat in her loins did not disappear, but she pushed those naughty thoughts off to the side. Putting the bowl into a pocket space, she tried to get up, her legs shaking as she stood up. Standing up caused her womanhood to be right in line with Issei's nose, making him lose control as he trotted forward and started sniffing at her skirt. No, not now. She tried to push him away a bit, but couldn't as he rubbed her nose up against her. It's not like she was trying all that hard. What happens if we get caught? Please, I'm begging you, not now. Tears were now streaming down her eyes as she was trying to resist and do her duty as the territory protector. Feeling her sadness broke Issei out of his naughty stupor, and he looked up at her, seeing her tears. Backing away, he finally gained control of himself completely, the glow on his manhood, and her womb disappeared. A growl not of his own was heard in his head before that too faded from his mind. Whipping herself off with a summoned bath towel and spray can, she whipped herself down, removing some of the wet, but when she looked at the spray bottle to remove the scent, she paused. For some reason she didn't want to remove Issei's musk. Putting the can away, she turned back to Issei. Let's keep going now, we lost some time already, so, let's hurry. Ria still had a see-through shirt, and her skirt was a bit dirty, but that could be taken care of later. If you smell anyone approaching, especially anyone that smells like the feathers before, warn me. She looked down at his still mostly hard manhood, before turning away quickly. Also, try to calm down, we shouldn't do that outside where it's not safe. Got it? Issei nodded, as he focused on his new orders. The voice in his mind once more growling at him to continue. He was able to push it down though, quieting it for a moment. That didn't stop the nagging feeling in his head and balls that he needed relief soon. Hopefully someone could help that soon or the mission was done shortly. The closer that the pair of devils approached the base, the more that Issei began to worry. The two of them had already dodged 2 patrols of exorcists, a little over a mile away from their destination. The men and women wore white and gray uniforms with long, flowing cloaks. Upside-down crosses decorated their uniforms on their sleeves and cloaks, marking their allegiance. They were all excommunicated hunters of the Catholic Church working for the fallen angels, as Rias explained that each one of them were skilled warriors in their own rights. They should be avoided as much as possible to make the recon mission a success. When last contacting Aquino and Kaneko, the two of them had been able to come closer to the front of the church than their king and pawn. It seemed like the security for the backside was more secure than the front. Aquino also noted that she hadn't felt any magical alarms, and Kaneko said that no patrols had come close to them yet. Looked like Rias and Issei had gotten the more difficult recon mission. Since we are getting closer to the enemy base, be sure to alert each other if anything of notice happens. If any of us are discovered at any point, we all bail out. Finally, I want me and Aquino to send a short message every 10 minutes to let us know that both sides are doing well. We will alternate which one of us sends out that signal. Understood? Issei nodded his head while the other two relayed their message through the magical circles each one had by their ears. The nagging voice still hadn't left Issei's ear, so in a moment of quiet as he and his partner hid from another patrol, the dog looked inward as deep as he could. Thus he found a dragon. Ha! Took you long enough to find me. Issei was now in a hazy crimson void, with the only other occupant being a tall sequin-formed lady with dark red hair, no scales, running down her head in what looked to be locks. A form-fitting red dress made up of multiple overlapping scales covered her tanned skin. Her form would have towered over Aquino, and she radiated a fiery red aura around her, making Issei whimper in his own soul as he gazed up at her. Their piercing green eyes had a narrow slit that seemed to gaze right through the mutt, and the multiple scars riddling her body didn't distract from her beauty, but instead added a wild and more dangerous edge to her. The only parts of her body that Issei would change would have been her total lack of TI. You dog, you dare mock my form? Issei yelped as her fiery aura leapt up at him, but dissipated before ever touching him. Who are you? Issei said shakily, not feeling this afraid before in his entire life, not since his death. I am your better half, the source of your new power, the reason why the fallen and devils want you, and now, finally, your mentor. The lady spread her arms wide, the haze growing brighter before fading back to normal. Ha ha ha, I have finally reached the host after so long with nothing. Oh, that white better be in such a lowly body as, well, if I have to deal with you. Her eyes glared down at her host, who was struggling to stand, to even bark back at her. HMMPH, so be it. Ever since that one host, I swear the dragon trailed off at the end. Anyway, our time now is short and is coming to an end. Mate often, mate well, and show your dominance above others. I will see you in your dreams. With that she snapped her hands, no claws, and Issei found himself snapping awake, having not moved an inch since he tried to look within himself. What's up, Issei? Is there another group in the area? Rias asked her companion after she noticed his ears perked up. He simply shook his head, deciding to wait to tell her about what just transpired in his head to her. They had other things to worry about right now. So far, each of the exorcists that they had passed so far had been unable to detect the duo. With Issei's keen sense, Rias's sensitivity to magic, cloaking spells, and the natural environment, master and dog were within spitting distance of the crumbling church walls. They could even see the decapitated head of what was once likely a Mother Mary statue. Issei got an unnerving feeling the closer that the two approached, and he turned towards his king for answers. Aquino, me and Issei are right outside the walls of the church. We will be in and out in 10 minutes. If I don't contact you within 15, come check the side that I am on. Tell Kaneko to stay behind and run back to town to alert the others in case we all go missing. Do not let her argue with you, and let her know that this is a direct order from me. We have to find out more about what these fallen angels and exorcists are doing. Rias out. She cut the call abruptly, not letting room for second thoughts. Examining the area to make sure that the coast was clear, they went up to the edge of the church. With Issei keeping watch, Rias checked for wards and alarms, disabling them temporarily for a moment. They only had a few minutes, and neither one wasted any time. Rias launched a few scrying circles into their defenses so that they would be able to get some warnings if the enemy moved somewhere out back. Issei worked to memorize any sense in the area that could be linked with future opponents. He caught a whiff of multiple different humans that smelled like they practice here often, with a few scents that seemed especially strong. His nose also smelled in total 3 fallen angels. Rias motioned them to start approaching the front when Issei's ears perked up and he heard approaching people. Sensing the shift in mood with her dog, Rias nodded her head, and the pair started to swiftly and stealthily exit the back churchyard. They had barely made it a few yards into the tree line when a loud booming voice rang out. The White Wolf has returned to our base. His tracks are still fresh. All exorcists fan out and hunt it down. If you can, bring it back alive so that we can extract its sacred gear. A reward will be given to the first soldier that can bring its stricken body to us. Growling underneath her breath, they're on to us. Aquino, you and Kaneko stay hidden. Me and Issei are going to lay low for now. After sending that quick message, Rias cut off her magic and retreated her aura as much as possible. Issei could sense his master trying to mask herself, so he remained on high alert as the sound of running feet started to approach their hiding spot. Knowing that their enemy was fast approaching, but still not knowing how many there were, Rias quickly put up an anti-detection ward and got lower. Gesturing to Issei, he hopped on top of her in the large bush that Rias had hidden in. Putting a hand to her lip, the king told her pawn to be as quiet as possible. The sound of wing flaps above soon faded, but the sound of the fallen angel warriors did not decrease. In fact, they seemed to be only growing as more patrols started to head out and regroup around the church. Not 5 feet away from the duo, a small group of them could be heard discussing their next actions. Where do you think that dog is right now? Also, what's so special about them anyway? You must be new around here. Yeah, that wolf that we are looking for somehow has a sacred gear implanted in them. Was even smart enough to teach a few others of its kind how to use them too. How the F did a dumb dog get a sacred gear but we didn't? I thought only those of human descent can have them. Issei scooted closer at this, trying to listen to their conversation more. Rias tried to warn him, but couldn't say anything or move much due to how close the enemy soldiers were. They couldn't even use telepathy since it might alert the enemy if they were magic sensitive. Get this, that dog was actually an experiment of one of the researchers here a while back. He figured out how to move sacred gears from one being to another. That's amazing. So the worthy can finally have what they deserve over those fortunate by chance. Praise be to us. This one cackled a bit with excitement, followed by the laughter of a few others. That was till a yelp of pain interrupted his laughter. "Quit your prideful delusions, we have work to do. Everyone spread out and report back to me when you find anything. I'll remain guard here so it is easier to find you lot." The sound of swiftly moving footsteps soon followed as the group started to disperse. Needing to see who was still there, Issei inched forward trying to glimpse who was still there. They smelled odd. Unfortunately for Rias, this caused her peerage member to further ruffle up their skirt, the dog's balls pushing it up till her panties were exposed if one had looked inside the bush at the right angle. He didn't seem to notice yet, but Rias was trying to hold her breath as she felt Issei shifted above her. Issei soon learned why the one who stayed behind. She had white hair, red eyes, and an athletic frame. In comparison to the other exorcists that were seen earlier, this one had a small plumage of black feathers around their shoulders, likely showing a higher rank. She smelled oddly like both a human and one of the other black feathers from before. The plumage around her shoulder would explain why she smelled like a mix. Glow. The higher ranking then leaned up against a tree and took a long drag, closing her eyes. She was staying right by them, weren't they? "Great, you have time to kill. Let me just let you know that this is the perfect time to claim your some more." Issei heard the voice in his head speak up suddenly, and he nearly yelped in surprise, the need to be silent preventing him. That didn't stop his hips from scooting in surprise, making him hump up against Rias, making her cover her own mouth in surprise as Issei rubbed up against her. She tried to push his haunches away, but instead felt the beginning of his manhood start to push out of his sheath, making her grab the growing member instead. Issei stayed quiet as he felt his manhood being grabbed again, and the feeling of being blue-balled earlier started to come to the forefront of his mind. Rias was mostly dry from earlier, but his scent marking her was still clear as day to him, marking her as his. So he had every right to start claiming her now. The more beastly and instinctual part of him was taking over, and with no words to rouse him, how could he stop? Rias felt Issei's manhood start to grow and pulse in her hand, unable to let go, as if it were favorite toy to play with. Instead, she could feel heat inside of her start to build up, and the crest on belly showed up again. As she continued to stroke the dog, his manhood started to grow to its full length, with 8 inches of it coming out already. Issei was now haphazardly humping into her hand now, covering it in doggy pre-manhood liquid. Feeling the urge to pant, but knowing the risk, instead Issei gently bit into Rias's shoulder, not breaking the skin, only wrinkling her drying uniform, but still leaving a bit of pain to remind her that he is there. Falling over a bit, her bobas were squished up against the floor, rubbing the front side of her bobas into the ground. Thank Satan for padded bras, or else she would be sobbing in pain, due to how rough the ground was. Fortunately, she only felt a dull ache and rubbing when she was being pushed up against the ground. She still had enough sense to hold back her sobs and groans, putting her mouth into her hand and turning her face down into the dirt to avoid alerting the enemy of what was going on near them. Still, the Crimson Princess did not let go of the growing naughty manhood, and instead quickened her pace. When his manhood was at full length, that was when he struck. Issei's move became more wild as his manhood grew, and soon he wasn't able to fit inside just one of Rias's hands anymore. She was only stroking the underside of his manhood, but he wished to feel more of her. Raising his hips higher and shifting his weight back, he pulled away from her hand and started to hump at her from behind. He kept latched onto her shoulder though, holding them both in place as he moved on her backside. His manhood's tip went underneath her shirt at first, raising it up a bit, but keeping low on his haunches, his move started to descend onto her wedding panties. The first hump stabbed her right above her bum hole, which made Rias groan into her mouth, and put more strength into her anti-detection ward. If they get discovered now, they would be ended without mercy. Still, this didn't stop either one from continuing on. If either one was paying attention, they would have noticed that a red and green glow was starting to emanate from Issei's manhood again, with a similar glow flaring up when Rias increased the power of her previous spell. Issei's next couple of moves kept missing their marks, teasing the two more in anticipation. That was until Issei made the calculated mistake of aiming right above her womanhood, right at her bumhole. Rias experienced something that she never thought that she would feel before. something poking at her tight little bum hole. That hole, which was pristine due to her own personal upbringing and moral code, a place that was never supposed to be entered, had its first ever rimming, coming straight from the pre-manhood liquid-flowing doggy manhood that had fed her earlier in the day. The panties that she wore prevented her from being actually penetrated, and instead let the dog hump at her bum hole a few times, dripping into it a little bit, making her womanhood whine as it wasn't being touched instead, and the idea of getting her bum blown out by her pet dog was forever planted in her mind. The Crimson Princess was now drooling into the dirt, having to latch onto her sleeve instead of her hand, the ball of cloth forming in her mouth helping to muffle her louder sobs of pleasure as her dog continued to play with her. Her firm bum made a perfect cushion as the mud continued to crush down upon them. Even while missing, he could enjoy the soft feel of a slice of sin when he rubbed up against her bum. Issei's impatience was growing though, and a quiet voice in his head told him that everything was going right, and that he should aim a little lower to actually find real purchase into Rias. Issei aimed his manhood lower due to the advice in his mind, moving his breaker away from her puckered hole. That would have to be broken into another time, when she was more ready and her whole and mind were more open to the idea. Issei raised his hips even higher, lifting up Rias's shoulder a bit, with the crimson-haired beauty also raising her bum some more too. Knowing what was soon happening, she hoped that he would finally F her again, but instead his manhood missed, only sliding up against the fabric of her panties again, sliding over her entire slit. Her body contorted, bending forward more and rubbing her boba against the ground some more, her large boba starting to hurt due to all the friction. She squeezed them with one hand quickly for a movement to relax them for a bit. Her boba points were incredibly hard, and you could feel them through the pads. She wished that she could take them off, but she couldn't reach it. Giving in, she used her power of destruction to break the back of her boba outfit, letting her boba hand from inside her shirt. On her other end, all this teasing was making her panties become a wet little mess, and she was worried if he would actually hit her spot. Taking matters into her own hand, she grabbed one side of her panties and moved them off to the side, revealing her thin slit to the world. No matter how many times that Issei had fed it so far, it returned back to its tight figure. Well, it was a little bit easier to go deeper into her now, as her body was getting used to his size. Just like how it started to welcome his doggy manhood into her once again, as it quickly welcomed the first 10 inches back into her. Still stifling her own sobs, she was running through a couple of different solutions in her head, finally ending on quickly untying her ascot around her neck. Scratching his head by her shoulder made the dog stop just for a moment. Rias could feel him twitch inside of her in impatience of wanting to continue humping his. Quickly taking her mouth off her sleeve and untying the ascot around her neck, she stuffed her mouth with that instead. Proud of her quick solution, she wiggled her bum to let Issei know that he could continue. She almost squealed out in surprise as Issei pulled back for the first time before battering at her womanhood again, his shaft not all the way in yet. The doggy, or what was she thinking of herself, was almost forced to sob out what a she was for her newest member's manhood if it wasn't for the black piece of cloth in her mouth. Finally able to move her arms without worry, Rias went about helping the dog get into her more smoothly. Using her arms as leverage, she humped back into his manhood, shaking the bush in the process. "Who goes there?" The voice of the exorcist that the two were hiding from rang out, but neither one of them heard her, lost in their own FING world. She didn't hear what was going on, but she did see the rustling of the bushes, with all the motions not being able to be concealed. Hearing the new voice, Issei nearly bobbed his head up, and noticed the attractive-looking lady in front of him through the holes in the bush. I lost focus on the spell. "Screw it, the more the merrier," Drake said in the dog's mind. Beatrice started to approach the bush when Issei popped his head up, smiling up at her. The lady paused, draping one side of her cloak in front of her like a shield till she turned to see who was staring at her. "Wait, you're just a random dog." If Mother hears that we mobilized the guards to just track down one." As she was speaking, she raised a knife behind her head, Issei not noticing till the light flashed off of it, stopping his move. A look of disgust on her face as Issei's quickly shifted to fear. Then a communication circle popped up by the excommunicated lady's ear. "Big trouble, we've found Soul Silver, but he's tearing into us." We already lost 2 of the others already. Shelving the knife back underneath her cloak, she growled at her subordinates. Surround the beast. Circle it and make sure that it doesn't leave your location. I'll be there to capture it myself. Aha, I hope Mother rewards me greatly for this later. The girl's knees bent together, and her whole body quaked as a slovenly smile appeared on her once stoic face. Her whole aura changed as she shook in excitement before the previous mask was back on as she started to turn around and run away from the abandoned church and the FING duo. A pair of wings gracefully landed from above. The sound of Beatrice's retreating form made Rias look out from the bush, sensing the past danger gone. Taking the piece of cloth out of her mouth, Rias breathed a sigh of relief. Ah, finally they're gone, now we can finally hoof. She started out before feeling the tug of meat inside of her shift again. Issei still rocks hard from before and wants more. Even though they weren't in sight of the church anymore, and the other exorcists seemed busy with a different threat, that didn't mean that they were out of danger. Rias's protective spell had also faded as well, but none of that mattered to the two. Once more Issei was riding his master, and he was going to make her take every inch of him again. His red rocket was once again pumping into her form-fitting snatch, reshaped for doggy manhood, and he could feel her baby room kissing the tip of his manhood, wanting to let him in deeper. Rubbing his hardened manhood up against her insides made her flinch, poking her head out. A rustling above was left ignored, and the two lovers continued to F each other. Ah, you feel amazing in me, Issei. Rias groaned as she tried to stay level. Her heavy bob was swinging from side to side as her dog humped into her, finally free from the ground. She finally undid her shirt, her glorious bow baffingly free. Wanting to see more, Issei leapt forward off the ground, wanting to gaze at his 2 greatest treasures. This finally got his nod into Rias, locking her with him as well as shoving the tip of his manhood straight into her womb again, welcoming him with a tight-sealed kiss. Rias's insides squeezed his breaker with joy, enjoying the sensation of being stretched out and F'd like an animal by an animal. Ah, F me, just like that, you're screwing me so well. Rias rocked her hips back into the dog, feeling the giant manhood enter her baby-making room, rearranging her insides. She has grown to love this sensation, and wicked thoughts began to play through her mind. The crest on her stomach was growing larger, with a red and green sheen, changing her insides as the manhood humped inside of her. The bush that they were in was now basically completely destroyed, with the two almost completely out in the open. This excited Rias even more as she started to imagine that there was someone watching them, fantasizing about what would happen if someone like Akino or Kaneko were watching her. They could all be worshipping, and getting F'd by this beast of a man. How great it would be if they could all have puppies together. This idea took root in her head in womanhood, making her feel even hotter, wishing for an audience. Of course there was nobody around to see her, and if they were, odds were that it would have been an enemy. Not caring about the consequences anymore, she started to voice her true feelings out loud. Ha ha, you just love it when you F me like that, right, Issei? He responded by hitting as deep as he could inside of her, making the mark on her belly bulge as she hissed in pain and pleasure. Ah, you just love screwing this princess like you're, How could you F me like this and not liquid yet? Her legs were already dripping with plenty of fluid, testament to all the times that she had come so far. You just love filling me up, don't you, boy? Issei barked in response, glad that he was able to F her as he could. Aw, yes, you're mine, and I love the way that you squeeze my manhood. He lost focus for a moment, accidentally shifting his weight, and Rias went along with him, weak in the knee already. Rolling in the grass a bit, the two were now fully out in the open, with the dog spooning the lady, shoving his massive manhood up her chute, not letting any room to get out other than her overflowing busy juices. Her F'd stupid face had her makeup running, drool coming off her face, and the uniform that had teleported onto her when they came to the mountain was all ruffled and skunk of fluid. Ah, Rias, I'm liquiding inside you. Issei bucked his hips. The light around his manhood and her womb started to glow a little brighter, growing brighter as Issei started to slow down his pace to get in as deep inside of her as possible. Rias fondled her on bobas, trying to get more sensation until suddenly, Issei bit her. Boost! A large booming voice sounded in Issei's head, but this time he was prepared. He held back for just a moment as he felt his knot inflate twice in size, and his manhood swelled as well, completely filling her up, and now the shape of his manhood could be seen from the outside. As he pressed into her, stretching out both of her holes, Rias could only sob in silence as something bigger than her original body could take filled her up. It became even more apparent just how full the beast was when he started liquiding inside of her. Her womb was quickly filled up to bursting, leaving no room to go as her belly bloated with fresh doggy liquid. As her body was filled up with more naughty manhood liquid, he bit her on the shoulder again, this time causing a flash of light that everyone noticed, making her wake up from her stupor for just a moment to realize that there had been magic working on her body, changing it over time. That was until the incredible pleasure of being filled up till her stomach looked a few months pregnant overwhelmed her again, with issei trying to keep humping into her as he filled her up. All good things must end though, and the amount of doggy liquid filling her slowed to a crawl. With a few more brain cells working this time due to getting used to being a doggy, she took a moment to create an image of the mark on her extended belly for later. Issei had also let go, groaning on the floor, mouth open, letting her move her ruined blouse out the way a bit. Her boba outfit was already beyond repair, so she didn't worry too much about it yet. She took a picture of a new mark on her to study later, but she knew that she and Issei didn't have much time now. Finally able to think for a moment, she called the rest of her peerage. "Kaneko, Akino, can you hear me?" She panted into the communication circle, Issei borfed behind her, voicing his presence. "Me and Issei are okay, a little shaken up, but we will manage. We had to hide from the exorcist that just, went hunting. They didn't find us. Are you okay, Rias?" Kaneko's worried voice sounded through the circles. "We were watching the front road when all of the guards and patrols started heading to the back. You didn't respond when we tried to call you." Rias felt bad for making the youngest member of her group worried. She was going to be a freshman next year in college, so it was best to keep her calm. Her not having the best childhood growing up wasn't helping her abandonment issues. "I'm fine. Sorry for scaring you all. Is Akino still with you or did she go searching for me? I did leave to go look for you, but I didn't find you. You must have hid very well." "Yeah, I put up a barrier and Issei has been sniffing around to make sure that we weren't caught." Issei nodded at that, since it was totally what he was doing. His manhood still felt huge inside of her, but she was doing her best to ignore it. Fortunately, it was starting to shrink as, the boost already fading with the lights a while ago. Finally able to slip his giant and still ready manhood out, Rias grunted into the communication device as he started to pull out his manhood. Rias quickly stretched to grab his balls, her body clamping hard on him again as she tried to change positions. All the other two heard over the circle was Rias's irked groan. "Is everything okay, Rias? You look like you are in pain." "Ha, I'm fine, Akino, just sore from having to hold still for so long. I'm teleporting me and Issei back to my home to rest. You two take the rest of the day off. Before I go, Kaneko, are there surveillance circles on the road to the Fallen Angel base?" Rias could almost feel her rook salute her. "Yes, Bucho, we have done so. We can watch any activity they take while leaving the front." "That's good, Akino, make sure that you and Kaneko make it out. We have to go home and rest now." Rias out. With that, the crimson-haired princess turned to the man that had almost dumped his load out of her onto the forest ground, permanently ruining their cover. "Don't pull out of me, Issei, no matter what scares you in a moment." Issei nodded his head in understanding. "Are there enemies around that could see or hear us now?" "No, nobody but your yes are here, haha," the dragon lady said in Issei's skull. The dog shook his head, still whimpering a bit since he was unsatisfied. He twitched a bit in her womanhood, and she felt his need start to run through her. "Okay boy, let's go." "Hold on." Rias summoned a teleportation circle around her before running a small amount of the power of destruction around them, destroying the bush that they were in and some of the stains that had fallen on the floor. Hopefully they wouldn't notice one bush gone out of dozens, and thus they were gone, leaving nothing but ash blowing in the wind, and a befuddled queen up in the branches. She checked underneath her battle uniform, a priestess uniform, and pressed her hands on the damp panties that she was wearing. What's going on?" The lady let her mask fall off for a moment, stunned at what she just witnessed. They were still gazing down at the spot where she was watching her queen get fed. She knew that her king was enjoying herself, and she wasn't in any real harm by the time that she had arrived. But they couldn't wrap her mind about why they would do something like this. Sighing, she put the wild and full axe to the back of her mind, put on a smiling face, and flew near where she left Kaneko. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.